Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm here today with Dominik, Costa, and Nathan to discuss about the recent announcements that the organizers have mentioned about the 2021 contest. To start things off, the organizers have mentioned that they are working on 4 scenarios to make sure that the 2021 contest will take place. So let's get on with it. Scenario A would be just as a normal show. So that means everyone will come to Rotterdam. All 9 shows will happen with a full audience, kind of like my background, and full press and full events in Rotterdam. All right then, guys, what do you think? What's the likeliness of scenario A happening, and your thoughts?
Impossible. It relies
zero chance.
Yeah, it relies on a rollout of a vaccine, and we're nowhere near a vaccine, and we're also nowhere near a wide-scale access to a vaccine. There is no way you would be able to vaccinate every single attendant of the Eurovision Song Contest, organisers, delegations, and the like, including media. It is not happening. Continue.
I think, yeah, that was all, like, that didn't take long.
Okay, well, we are now pharmacists, aren't we? So we can make that. That's the update from quarantine, guys.
Yeah, we've all learned science.
Yeah. Okay, then. All right, then the next scenario is scenario B. Scenario B would entail a socially distant Eurovision Song Contest. All the shows would still take place in Rotterdam, and all of the delegations would still be in Rotterdam, but it would mean less capacity in the arena and, you know, a reduced on-site activities in Rotterdam and Press Center. Thoughts about it, guys?
More likely. Not impossible. It's difficult to say. We only got the colors like green and yellow to see how many people get in the the audience or the press center. I think it would also be interesting to see like the percentage, how crowded it can be, but it's probably too soon for that. I think it's way more likely than A. If everything goes well, I think B is the most likely scenario. If things go down at some point, yeah, it's hard to reach, but maybe.
I mean, according to the Dutch government at the time of recording, the social distance meter is 1.5 meters. So it's just, I'm just thinking, how are you going to fit everyone in? Well, I know they said that they're going to reduce the capacity, but I'm just thinking, how is everyone going to be seated? Like 1.5 meters there.
What we're seeing a lot, not just in the UK, but across the continent, is that indoor events are taking place at tables. And we're seeing a lot of the music venues and indoor performance venues have like tables of 6 seats. So you can be in a party of 6 people. And I imagine how it would work is to say to him, you've got tickets with other people. It would be you and your other people on one table, and that's it. There'd have to be a maximum of 6 of you, which is fine because obviously you can't buy more than 6 tickets anyway, I believe. So good news is everyone in your team gets in, but you'll be on one table and you'll be 1.5 meters away from any other table. That is how I would imagine it goes ahead, which is quite nice really, because the standing won't be standing and it will kind of be visually really spectacular, I think, because you'll still get to, well, put it this way, there won't be flags in front of the cameras live on a Saturday night.
I think it sounds great. I mean, I love sitting down, and I don't want anyone touching up on me in the arena. I would love this like a nice bubble around me, so I have my own space. I can breathe, can move around a little bit.
I can actually see the stage.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. I will stand on the chair for us shorties. It would actually be life changing.
I think it's a really nice idea. We've seen it in action across the continent so far, and nobody's just complained about it. So that's how I envision seeing what we're seeing in the Netherlands as well as other places. That's how I envision it would happen. You are right though; it's 1.5 meters from all people, so it means therefore there would be a more limited audience. And you also talked about limits on people going, so there would be a restriction on the number of people in each delegation. There'd be a restriction on the number of press who could attend. So an interesting way of looking at that is that it would be a positive thing for the contest because we would get a contest out of it, but it would still be a different contest because a delegation may not be able to take all the creative directors they'd usually take, or they may not be able to, you know, there would be changes in the way that people have to adapt to Eurovision itself. So we would still see a different contest, even in that scenario. It wouldn't be the full blown, here's 16 people to do your makeup and hair for each decade, for example. It would be just a different contest.
I just looked it up. Like we had concerts like this time in arenas, and one artist was performing in the huge arena like 2 months ago. So this changed obviously, but the arena fits usually 20,000 people, and there he performed now for less than 1,000. I think this will change till Eurovision will happen, but I don't know how he holds, but I think maybe 2,000 people in there, or 1.5. I think that's almost the limit with like the distancing and everything.
It's tough, isn't it? Because we're seeing currently, at time of recording across the continent, football matches are starting to get audiences back. A Bundesliga have committed 20% of a stadium, as long as there's no local restrictions in place on audience capacity. So that's Germany's top division having 20% of crowds. So if you've got an arena at 60,000, that's a very good amount to have. And we're looking in England with the Football League here having 1,000 fans at a number of grounds this weekend for the first time. So what we're seeing is a start to a test and a start to see how many people you can viably get in outdoor stadiums. And that's a really big thing to say, is an outdoor stadium. Unless they're planning on taking the roof off of Ahoy, then the capacity is going to be much more reduced than it can be for a sports stadium, where the open air does allow for even more kind of, yes, you can social distance, but it kind of is a bit of a less risk attached to it. The last thing on this option, scenario B, is of course that if we can't have a full capacity, we can't all get tickets. And therefore there would need to be a fair draw about who gets to go. And if you don't go, you get a full refund for your tickets. So, you know, I don't think it's the best way to act. I feel like there's a lot of people who have had funds withheld from them despite there not being a contest this year upon the promise of a ticket for next year, but we can't promise a ticket for next year. So my personal opinion is that the fairest thing to do now is to refund everybody. You've got your event insurance from this year. You know, that's one of the things they were holding out for, is the finances to actually be able to carry on. You know, that's so important. But at the same time, you now need to release those ticket funds until you know what your audience can be, and I think then do a fresh, fair draw. Because frankly, not everybody who bought a ticket in January last year is going to want to go in May next year because of perhaps circumstances, perhaps you know, financial circumstances based on coronavirus, where people have lost income and you know, and jobs in some cases. Perhaps there's also health associations. There are lots of things that I think may have an impact on next year's audience, and I think the fairest thing now is to basically refund everybody this year and do a complete fresh draw when you know you can only hold 1,000 people.
I agree. However, what I will say is that the idea of like the lottery is kind of fabulous. I hope they like live stream it and like imagine like Nikki Tutorials hosting it with like a shredder. And then the 1,000 lucky fans get their tickets. Like,
and all the rest are shredded live on television.
Yeah, make it an event. Why not?
Another thing I'd like to point out on the tickets is I don't know how they're going to do it, because obviously there is different types of tickets. Kind of like with me, I've got the OGA ticket package that was a bit of a pain to buy, but like, how are you going to make a fair draw out of that one? Because we've got access to all 6 shows, so I just don't know how they're going to make a draw out of it.
Shredder, yeah, exactly. I think that is the biggest question, is how can you make a fair draw when some people had access to a fan package, some people bought them outright, and surely for me the best thing is refund everybody and start fresh.
Okay then. All right, moving on. We've also got scenario C, which is mostly the same as scenario B, but with travel restrictions. So it means if travel restrictions, like say in Australia, are still ongoing, the delegations that can't come to Rotterdam are going to have to perform in their home country. And let me start off by saying this is how far if we go for scenario C, how far ahead would they know or would they be planning for both B and C? Because I'm just trying to think, if they have to perform their own home, surely the kind of like doing with Junior Eurovision, the like, you know, maybe a stage should be on the same footing, because you can't have it where someone's disadvantaged because they can't get to Rotterdam, they can't make use of the stage for their performance. So that's my 2 cents on scenario C. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, kind of same. Like if you have countries with lots of money, for example, like if they don't have to perform like on a stage, just the home country, like imagine, just example, like Azerbaijan performing in front of the Flame Towers, or Russia performing in Sochi in front of the Olympic stadiums. Like they get my votes, but it's not like equal chances for everyone. I think it's very interesting to see also the press work, if not all participants are like in Rotterdam. Like, do you like video chat the whole time? Or I think it's very interesting to see what's coming up next year. It will be different. Yeah, I think it will be quite right.
Yeah, we know I mean, I don't want to be rude, but we know some certain countries, their national finals are a bit crunchy. So I think if they happen to be the ones with travel restrictions, they're going to be massively disadvantaged, because sometimes it sounds like they're singing via potato instead of a microphone. It's not great. So, and also like the stages tend to be tiny. Sometimes their national finals are filmed in like shopping centers. I won't name names, but that's not really what we want to be seeing. And I think one of the great things about the Eurovision is that it's irrespective of your country, even though there are disparities in like obviously the budgets of that delegations bring. Even, for example, Moldova 2018, what they were able to do with a very small budget on that big stage was really innovative. I think had they not had the kind of same kind of camera equipment and sound equipment, it wouldn't have worked as well. So I think, yeah, I mean, this can be mitigated by as many countries as possible being able to travel. And if it's just a couple, then it's still not ideal. But for example, Australia, we've seen Australia decides, even if they're not there, their satellite performance will still be pretty epic because they know how to stage. And I think it would be kind of charming if Australia just happens to be doing it via Australia. I think it would be an interesting kind of dynamic, and maybe counteract the kind of televote issues I've had in some more recent contests.
I think we're heading for scenario C. I think that look, it's a long way off. However, based on what we're seeing for Junior at the moment is scenario D. And that's only 2 months away right now. Do we really think that we're going to come out in February and be anything other than scenario C or D? It would take a lot of work. It would take a lot of progress across the continent. But I think it's fair to assume that some nations are going to have travel restrictions based on what we're currently seeing, current trends. You think that over the last 6 months in the United Kingdom, nearly 7 months, we've had a variety of different travel restrictions that are being changed all the time. And if the picture is going to continue to move and continue to change over the next 7 months again, then we are going to be in that position of somebody is going to be at home. And as Costa's exactly right in saying, this means this is very difficult to put everybody on that same staging, and it would look very, very different if a country with a very small budget ends up having to stay at home and performing in a tiny studio that's maybe originally a dance studio that they've set up some lights and a and a curtain at the back. I've got visions. Forgive me for this. I've got visions of the Drag Race finale this year where everyone performed from home and they got sent equipment and they got sent a screen and a camera, right? And that's the vision I've currently got, is that there's going to have to be budget for someone to actually send a top quality camera and a setup to make sure that they can be as good as possible, even if it's not going to be on the same footing. So there's a lot to play here. But I do think that scenario C is where we are currently looking like it could well be. The positive here is that all the performances will still be brought together in Rotterdam, and that there will still be opening and interval acts performed live in Rotterdam. So there is some hallmarks of in scenario C. There's still some hallmarks of actual Eurovision, but it would be very, very well, it'd be interesting, but it'd be very difficult to imagine how the contest can be fair if San Marino perform in San Marino from a tiny poker TV studio, and the next act on in the semi-final is Russia, who've turned up with all bells, whistles, and budget to Rotterdam. Because how can you compare as a professional juror or a televoter fairly?
I just hope that everybody has to like perform live, not
Yeah.
just pre-recorded. Like I think Junior Eurovision is pre-recorded.
We don't know. We don't know. Nobody's officially said.
Yeah.
Or I'm just
we asked, but nobody's actually said.
Or I'm just trying to think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Remember in Tel Aviv where they had so many technical issues where they just said to the jurors, just base it on the vocal performance.
Yeah, and they could. You'd have to submit. I suppose this is the thing: is within rules and regulations, you'd still have to actually give a new definition for a juror to sit there and rank songs on. So it still needs some thought. It still needs some thinking. But you know, I suppose the only good thing we can say is they've planned for it. You know, whereas this year, obviously, there was no plan because it. Not that it came out of nowhere. My real frustration is that. This was not foreseen by the majority of the world 6 months out from Eurovision. So the fact that with 6 months to go, there wasn't any of this, you know, Junior Eurovision with 3 months to go, they've come up with plan B. We had none of this because they had to claim their event insurance, you know, and that's the only frustration I have is that we could have done this year.
Okay.
No, they couldn't have.
Well, why not?
Because it clearly would have taken. It was just too last minute. It wasn't 6 months before.
But it's not too last minute because
Junior Eurovision's
taken. Yeah, but Junior Eurovision's taken 2 months and 9 delegations withdrawing, or whatever the number is. I think it's 7, isn't it? 7 delegations withdrew, and they went, maybe we should do a distance contest. Nobody's come back in yet.
We have a
there's 41 delegations.
Yeah, 41 delegations, but the point is before anybody could have said, we can't go, we don't think we can get there, they could have come up with a plan B based on the fact that in 2 months they turned around a plan B for Junior Eurovision. That's my thinking is this was cancelled on the 18th of March. Yeah, so that's the same timescale as now to Junior Eurovision, pretty much.
No, but they've had the kind of foresight of 6 months of a pandemic, which we didn't really have. Everything was so uncertain back in March.
It was, but they needed their event insurance.
I don't think it's fair to say that they could have. I think the contest could not have gone ahead. I think it would have been a complete mess. Whereas even Junior is a dry run. Like it could be.
It's true. We don't even know what it's going to look like.
Let's not cut off his chickens before they hatch.
Okay. Moving on. Scenario D, which is the final scenario of the 2020 Eurovision, which Nathan has already touched upon. Shows will still be in Ahoy, but none of the delegations, well, of course, the Netherlands will be there, but will be in Rotterdam. No audience. And all of the on-site events would be replaced with a virtual one. And with the... See, this is a thing I'm querying about because of the color scheme. I'm a bit confused. It's saying the press center is red and orange, and it's green and orange on C. So I don't know what they mean by that.
So red and orange on the diagram means that it's not possible or in an amended form. So I think the idea for events in Rotterdam is it's either going to be not happening or they'll have to do an amended version of that. For the press center, it's either not happening or, in my opinion, the amended version is probably local press only. Yeah,
that's probably the case then. Locked up for my opinion on scenario D would be, I think it's a bit like Junior. Well, we've already did discuss this. Basically, like Junior Eurovision, it's a wait and see to see how this is gonna go, and the fact that it's still very early stages and there's not explicit details on how they're gonna execute that. It's a wait and see. Even Siesta says like, we're watching Junior because we want to see how they're going to execute it.
And the good news is that they haven't made a choice right now. They are still leaving the door open. I think part of that door being left open is based on, does scenario D work? So we'll learn. We'll learn in the next couple of months, this side of Christmas, really, as to do we think that's a viable option for 42 delegations next year, or up to 42 delegations, I suppose. And then we will be able to make a good decision based on we'll be able to have an opinion, I suppose, all ourselves about which one we think is the most viable option. Because Shine a Light worked for some people, and for others, it was not worth watching. And it may well be that with Junior Eurovision, the way it comes across to viewers, it will divide viewers. And I think that's one of those things we'll all agree on, is that some people will say, oh, it worked, and other people will say, well, it just wasn't there, it wasn't right. And then that would force a very difficult decision, I think, from the EBU based on what they do. Because if it feels like option D is a bit of a meh, then that's going to be a big impact on next year, I think.
Mm-hmm. Dominik, Costa, what are your thoughts on it?
I would just love to hear who thought Shine a Light actually worked, because I don't think anyone on this planet did.
I've seen positive comments
where everybody's saying that was good. That was good.
You mean, so basically everyone loved Shine a Light, or everyone loved Hallelujah, but for two different reasons. But like, I have seen positive comments online where people said, oh, it was sweet, it was nice. Me personally, I spent 2 hours thinking this was a waste of my evening. I did, because I could watch, I'm not being funny, I could watch 30 seconds of all the preview videos and a recap video on YouTube. It didn't celebrate the entries, in my opinion, because we didn't get to hear the entries, we got to hear a chorus. And in addition, you know, I just didn't feel like it really harnessed what Eurovision is. I didn't feel it really got that point of it being, yes, we couldn't have a contest this year, but we could have done something to celebrate the songs, which was a bit more than 30 seconds, even if you'd have made it 60 seconds. You know, I'm not being funny, but yeah, a verse and a chorus would have given you a bit more of a celebration of a song and allowed casual viewers to actually maybe embrace some of those songs a bit more than you get from 30 seconds of a preview clip.
All right, then that's all of the updates that we know of for the 2021 contest. Let's go around the chat and just ask what we think of it and what do you think would happen in Rotterdam, and maybe we can go back to this 7 months later. Or actually, no. Let's do a prediction game, actually, because we won't know, and we don't know what the hell's going to happen in 7 months' time. What do you think of the change of the scenarios, and which scenario do you think would happen in Rotterdam in 7 months? Nathan?
I'm glad they've planned a number of scenarios. I'm the eternal realist who would say, right, well, based on actual reality, it's going to be option C. You know, I'm not getting my hopes up because there's no need, and I'm also not being pessimistic about the fact that it'll have to be D. But I do think that we are going to be having a slightly different Eurovision Song Contest in which some of the delegations won't be able to get there, but will need some ability to participate in a different way to usual.
Costa?
Holding out for B. And I maintain that if it's just Australia that can't make it, then it's still B.
Dominik?
We'll Skype Montaigne in, I don't mind.
Dominik?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they already mentioned before that they really want to do the contest like next year. I think they mentioned this like months ago. So I don't think it's much news we got now. Lots will depend on maybe how Malthus is doing. It's just one country, but the executive producer is now Swedish, so maybe they see what's going on there, also with tourists. I think I'm going to put my money on C. Option C, probably.
Okay, then. Leaves it up to me then. Okay. I'm looking at it in a way where I don't think all of the participating countries are going to be able to freely travel next year. I'm not even surprised that one day they can just suddenly go, okay, nope, you're not going out of the country. No one's allowed to go out. So yeah, my bet would be on C, but my main query is how far in, like I've mentioned earlier on, how far in advance do you tell everyone that we're going to go for C, because we need to make sure that there's an even playing field.
I think that's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they say like the beginning of the year, like February, March or so?
Yeah,
early months.
Oh, okay.
Early months, but no set month of when they're going to mention anything.
My presumption would be early months means they can get to the head of delegation meeting on March the whatever and decide that that's when they make the call, because obviously this year's head of delegations meeting was virtual, and I imagine next year's will also be virtual. Yeah, I think that that's when they'll make the call.
I mean, because I mean, weren't there a lot of people?
It wasn't virtual.
It was
some were. Some had to Skype in. I think it was a handful of delegations had to Skype in, and that's when they realised there was a bit of an issue.
Okay, then. All right, then. So we will see how this goes, and you know, let's just hope for the best, and hopefully we'll all be enrolled.
We can hope.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
Open up to making it happen.
Feel the fantasy.
All right, then. But for now, I just want to say thanks to Nathan, Dominik, and Costa for taking the time and discussing all of the scenarios to make sure that the 2021 contest could happen. But for now, thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, then please give us a like, and also don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to make sure that you are one of the first ones to find out when we have a new video out. Also, don't forget to follow us at ESCXTRA on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But for now, thank you very much.